Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Sharifa, and my poetry name is New Lily. If you're new to my channel, please check out the links located in the description box and comment section. And in both locations, you'll find an identical set of links that lead to videos that talk about what started my targeting in 2020, as well as links that lead to videos that share information about the targeted individual program, information about the tactics used on targets, information about the technology used on targets, and just info in general about the program, y'all. Excuse me. Anyways, y'all, just wanted to, like I said, share info. Not share info. I didn't say what this video is about. I'm tired, y'all. Look at the time. 5:10 a.m. I'm at work, actually. I'm very tired. I'm sorry, y'all. Not sure info. I haven't said what the video is about yet. I just did my typical intro. So this video, y'all, is just more Gangstalking documentation. As I mentioned in the last video, I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, but I'm in a new gym now. I think I did mention this in the last video that I posted that you see on the screen, that part 3 sabotaging and gaslighting of the targeted individual video. And even if I didn't mention it in that video, letting you know now I am in a new gym, right? And it wasn't even due to the stupid, annoying tactics that I was dealing with in my old gym. That was getting frustrating, and I was so over the situation. I've been saying that in every video. I've been tempted for a long time to get a new gym. It was really just that I liked the location of the old gym. It was near where I live. The rate was cheap. And I just gotten used to being there. You know, I got accustomed. I'm targeted, so I never know what to expect in a new situation. And so that was really what it was, just complacency and comfort. But I was, for a while, contemplating getting a new gym with all the stupid crap I was dealing with as far as gangstalking goes, right? So anyways, it wasn't really until the other day when it seemed to be gangstalking. They closed the gym, and I wasn't able to access the gym. And, that's been an issue I've had with that gym. The main issue outside of the targeting and outside of the gangstalking activity that I was dealing with due to what took place with that personal trainer, this was an outside issue. An issue I had as a member was the fact that it wasn't a 24-hour gym. And so not an issue as if, that's their fault. You have 24-hour gyms, and then you have gyms that are not. And so really it's just up to you to pick the gym that suits you and what you're looking for. But that was also an issue for me, the fact that they were not a 24-hour gym. So they did this. Well, I don't know if it was a gangstalking tactic or not. It really seemed that way. But the other day for Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, the gym was open in the morning time. And I passed through and I saw that it looked kind of busy. I saw some gang stalkers there. Like I told you all, one of the guys they started using during my gym session was the same guy. And again, you have to keep up with these recent videos, y'all, to know what I'm talking about. Or this is going to sound like foreign info to you. I would start here, y'all, at the part 1, sabotaging and gaslighting of the targeted individual video. And just check out all these videos, not the poetry. I mean, yes, I would like you to check out my poetry, but that's not connected to the targeted individual videos. But just the videos that I've posted recently. The last, I would say, since that part 1 video, the last one, so I'm counting that part 1 video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 videos if you have the time. Check it out. Follow the saga of my life and the drama that I'm dealing with as a target. Anyway, in one of these videos, I mentioned the fact that the whole reason I said the thing I said about the personal trainer in the first place at the beginning of last year, not the issue that him and I had at the end of last year. I'm talking about the stupid comment I made at the beginning of last year, in reference to him, them putting a gang stalker on top of me that's doing all these annoying things and or whatever comment I made, or just trying to make eye contact with me, and the guy that's my type isn't even doing that, or whatever stupid dumb crap I said. I regret it so bad, y'all. I can't even remember what I said. That's not verbatim, but it was basically like this comment where I made it seem like he was who I liked, or who I had a crush on, and they were putting this guy on me. I mean, that should have been obvious enough that that was a tactic I was using. I don't know why that wouldn't have been obvious when you put this guy on top of me that's like this pretty boy, obvious honeypot, and he's doing all these annoying things. Like, and they saw the annoyance in my face too. They're watching me like a hawk. They saw how annoyed I was every time he would come around me, and I would get up and purposely move away from him. So now I make this video where I make this comment about the other personal trainer. I don't know why they didn't put that together, that was a tactic. These people really swore up and down that I was into the man and I liked him so bad and I was shooting my shot, and it's just so irritating. I'm just so mad at myself for doing the dumb thing, right? But if you look at the whole saga of what took place between him and I, you can say I wasn't being thirsty in the situation. He continued to do what he was doing, being a personal trainer in the gym. And then months later, he was going on some hike with several of the members in the gym, and he invited me and gave me his number. And a week later, I declined to let him know I wouldn't go. Never used the man's number. I had the man's number in my phone for the whole year before the whole incident between him and I at the end of last year took place. Never used his number. Apparently, he sent me a friend request on Facebook. I didn't even see it because I have so many friend requests. And the way my Facebook is set up, my friend requests turn into followers. So if you send me a friend request and I don't see it, or I don't add you, you're going to go into the follower category. The man was sitting there in followers. I had no clue the man even added me on Facebook. But the up and down trying to paint this narrative of me being thirsty, and then they tried to turn it into, when I made the videos, refuting that fact, and the fact that if you look at the occurrence, the things that took place between him and I, you'd see I didn't act thirsty in the situation. Then they started trying to flip it into this thing where it's just them pushing the false narrative, and it just being one of the many false narratives they're throwing at me to antagonize me for not trusting, I guess, and for bearing false witness. And then they're trying to tie it in with the race thing and make it about the race thing, even though he wasn't doing that all of last year when he was working out with me. The video I made the video that I played at the end of last year that made the Italian guy start gangstalking or coming to the gym during my morning sessions, that video had been made at the beginning of the year. I didn't just make that video. I played it then because it was relevant to something that was going on in the targeting at the time. And in the video, I briefly mentioned, that wasn't even what the video was about, but I just briefly mentioned all the enemies that I made when I was in Florida because I shared offensive Hebrew Israelite propaganda. And then the Italian guys started coming during my gym session and became a permanent staple in my morning session. And then shortly after, I noticed I started seeing the other guy. Now, mind you, before the Italian guy started coming, I was already seeing the other guy, but not on a regular basis. I noticed he would just pop up at the end of my session and wave at me, and then he'd disappear. And that happened a couple times. Then, like I said, the Italian guy started coming, obviously gangstalking, because of that video that I played, which I'm still to this day kind of confused about it, because like I said, I had made that video months prior to playing it when I played it, and then him coming and seeming upset about it. But nonetheless, I made a video talking about it, apologizing if I offended anyone, and the Italian guy seemed to cool down. He didn't seem mad anymore. The other guy started coming during my gym session too. He wasn't doing the horrible stuff. And then I learned the Italian guy's name. I heard someone call his name. And then his name started popping in my head like crazy. I wasn't being disrespectful to him. Him and I weren't best friends, but we had like some sort of camaraderie-ship. Sometimes he would give me tips or advice. I told y'all months prior he had actually saved me when the barbell had fell on my back, when I had tried to go heavier with the squatting. This was last year, y'all. This was when I was still squatting lighter loads. I can squat way heavier now, but I had just gone up in weight on the Smith machine, and I had went up to 210 pounds. And the barbell almost crushed me because I didn't put the safety bars high enough. And the Italian guy jumped in and pulled it off my back. And then he also helped me to complete the squat because he is a personal trainer. So him and I, we weren't, like I said, besties, but we had some sort of I don't know if I want to use the word camaraderie-ship. Obviously, he was there as a gang stalker, but we were okay. It's not like it was like some big beefing feud where we're both being disrespectful to each other. He was just there as a presence, and obviously a gang stalking presence at that. But nonetheless, things were cool. The two of them were there, and he wasn't doing the horrible stuff. And then the Italian guy's name started popping in my head. I learned it when I heard one of them call his name, and that was when the dude started doing all this crazy stuff for like a whole month. Hold on, y'all. Give me a minute. And I already talked about in the prior videos what went down, y'all. I'm not about to tell the story again. I really don't care to. It's only because the thing is still continuing and I'm in a new gym why I'm even still talking about the fucking retarded ass situation. I'm so sick of it. Anyway, so that's what they did, though. They started trying to turn it into this race thing and make it like, oh, that's what it was about, even though after the thing occurred, right, and I had the reaction, it was like a month of him doing like horrible stuff. I finally had a reaction. Like I told y'all, if you listen to the prior videos and listen to the whole thing that took place between him and I, you'll hear the whole rundown. And actually, y'all, there's a video where I tell the whole story of what took place between him and I. You can check out this part 1 targeted individual video that you see is 2 hours and 56 minutes long. But that's just going way back, y'all. You need to keep up with my recent videos before you even check out this video. This is just, like I said, kind of a continuation and an update on the situation. Because, long story short, I'm in a new gym and I'm still dealing with the stupid-ass, annoying situation from my last gym. Anyway, so they try to make it like it's a race thing and that's why he was doing it and this and that. But then after I had the reaction to what he was doing, I finally reacted after a whole month of him doing horrible stuff for no reason because the guy's names are taken in my head. I insulted him in my brain. Remember, with the neuromonitoring technology, they can hear your thoughts in real time. Check out the links in the description box and comment section, y'all. This is high science technology. And actually, according to Robert Duncan, who works for DARPA, who's a Harvard DARPA scientist and one of the progenitors of the technology, according to him, there's a whole agenda behind the targeted individual program and with the technology. He termed it a new world order agenda where they intend to microchip everyone and hook them up to some sort of hive mind computer interface. Anyway, nonetheless, that's neither here nor there. There's a video in the description box and comment section you can check out with an interview from Robert Duncan where he talks about that, y'all. I believe it's titled Harvard DARPA Scientist. I can't remember the rest. Discusses mind reading technology or something like that. Check it out, y'all. This is some serious stuff that I learned since being targeted and doing research. Anyway, let me not go off on a tangent. So after a month of him doing the craziness, I had a reaction finally, and I thought like some horrible stuff in my head about him, and he disappeared out the gym. Like he literally almost like ran out the gym, and I didn't see him for days after that. And then from there, it was up in that gym. They were tormenting me. They were sending dudes around me, guzzling water and pretending like I was thirsty. He started gang stalking. He all of a sudden got a girlfriend, like about I want to say maybe 2 months after the incident, he had a girlfriend all of a sudden, like they hooked him up with someone. He starts bringing her around me and working out with her everywhere I am in the gym. He's following me around with her and working out with her next to me, right on top of me. There was a point where I was on the adductor machine. And if you look at that workout, it's an awkward movement, similar to how hip thrusts are an awkward movement. I was doing that workout, and the man, put the new girlfriend, on a machine that's next to the adductor machine, this ab machine where you can pull yourself up and do crunches, and he's going to squeeze himself in between the two of us. Like, he kept doing stuff like that, just bringing her around, and I didn't even have a damn clue who the girl was. I didn't care, and I didn't know. I didn't realize I wasn't thinking about it. I just figured he was training someone again because I had been working out with him for a whole year and change, and he was always training different females. It just seemed like he was on top of me, though. I'm like, dang, he really like on top of me with this girl. I'm like, I was just feeling like it was all retribution or fallout from what took place. The reaction I had, him working out super close to me, but I didn't put it together that this was specifically someone for him. I didn't really care. Not to sound like a bitch, I didn't. So it wasn't until like I think he realized I wasn't catching on, that I was on this machine squatting, and he actually blocked my workout with the girl and started blowing kisses at her. The two of them were like lifting dumbbells and he's blowing kisses at her and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is why he keeps, following me around with this girl every time, I'm having a session. All of a sudden it seems like he's on top of me with this girl. I'm like, that's what's going on. I put it together. So I was like, okay, whatever. I didn't care. I just realized what was going on. I'm like, okay, well, now maybe he'll stop following me around with the girl because now I understand what's going on. That didn't happen. It's like I didn't have the reaction they were hoping for. I think they wanted me to be hurt or distraught or something, and it wasn't what they thought with that situation. I mean, I would think they would have realized that, though, with the way I operated. Don't you think if I really liking him so bad and crush and shoot your shot and this and that, when I actually got his number that he gave to me, don't you think I would have used it or, been trying to contact him or something of that nature? It wasn't what they thought. I'm targeted, first of all. I'm not stupid. So the trust level, not to use this word because that's a major source of contention in the targeting, but the trust level ain't where it needs to be. I'm not where I am I'm not in any shape or form ready or comfortable enough to date anyone with what's happening. How the hell am I going to date somebody and my life is on camera 24/7? Does that make sense? Why the fuck would I, excuse my language, it's just like, it's either like stupidity or they're purposely just fucking with me. Why would I actually shoot my shot at a man on camera while the whole island is watching? Put it together. And I did it right when you were putting this annoying dude on top of me. And then on top of things, the same dude they're using as a gangster, because this is what led to me going off on the tangent and talking about things I've talked about in prior videos. They knew exactly who I was talking about. Because shortly before I left the old gym and they started using the dude on me, right? The dude that made me say the thing about the other personal trainer in the first place. They knew exactly who I was talking about. When I said the only reason that I said recently, I had said that, right? I was saying that the only reason, and I had kind of alluded to that fact months prior anyway, last year. So I think they were already kind of catching on. But I very clearly now recently in recent videos again reiterated that the only reason I even said the thing I said about the dude in the first place was because they were putting that dude on top of me that was an obvious honeypot and he was annoying the shit out of me. They knew exactly who I was talking about. Recently, they started using him as a gang stalker on me during my morning gym session in the old gym before I switched gyms. That's what led to me going off on the tangent. Anyway, so it's a stupid, annoying situation. I don't understand what's going on, So anyway, after the thing happened with him, the personal trainer, they just kept, thinking up with his girlfriend, kept trying to stick her up my craw. I don't know why they were doing that, like constantly just trying to stick her on top of me. Even after he did the whole scene where he blocked the mirror and stuff. First of all, like I said, he just kept working out on top of me with her, and I wasn't catching on to what was going on. And so then he blocked the mirror while he's doing this workout with her, and he blew kisses at her. And so I was like, okay, so this is why he's been following me around with this female. So then after that happens, it's like that wasn't good enough. Like it happened and I didn't have a reaction. What they were expecting didn't happen. They then did the scene in the back room with his friends that I've talked about in prior videos, so I'm not going to talk about it again in this video, where they were doing directed convo with the girlfriend, his friends and the girlfriend were in the back room of my old gym, and I went to go get my phone and they started doing directed convo to try to get in my head. And so this is the stuff they were doing. And then they keep trying to push it like it's about the race thing. Like, stop the bullshit, man. Anyway, so nonetheless, whatever the case is, I don't care. Really and truly. I'm so over the situation. I'm ready for it to be done. What you have is a bunch of bias and subjectivity, because I did truly share offensive stuff 3 years ago, by the way, y'all. 3 years ago. It was reactive abuse. I don't have a history of sharing that stuff. I've apologized. I'm not still sharing it. The people who actually created the content, as I mentioned in my last video, the guys in purple, they're using as gang stalkers on me. So it's not about that, obviously. But they're able to recruit all these different people because I did offend a lot of people throughout the course of the targeting. And so there's a level of subjectivity there. And so now you have white people like hopping on board and wearing the yellow, and they're pushing the narrative of the race thing and trying to make it like that's what it was about. And it's just crazy, weird stuff, man. And now you're having the white people doing the thirsty thing, and it's just, I cannot. Then this next thing that I wanted to talk about, y'all. Oh my God, this is really the kicker here now. This is all fallout from what took place with this man's girlfriend at this point now about 2 months ago, right? Remember, this is a continuation of what's been going on with that personal trainer from my old gym. I was just giving you a recap of everything that took place between him and I before we got to what happened 2 months ago, the recent thing with his girlfriend. Because remember, it escalated to him and her, she and I now having a direct interaction with each other, and her having some sort of reaction to some gangstalking shit they were trying to do that backfired, and she had some sort of malfunction and she started dissing me, and I got retribution for it. I handled it maturely, and I got a bunch of retribution for it. And this is basically what led to where we are right now, all the fallout I'm dealing with now. And of course, a bunch of people are hopping on board because they have a problem with me anyways. I shared a bunch of offensive stuff out of anger due to being stalked and harassed and illegally targeted, and I hadn't committed a crime. I had horrible reactions when I tried to relocate off island, said a bunch of horrible offensive things. And so you have a lot of people that be watching me cross-eyed that have issues with me. They think I'm this cocky thing too because they're constantly trying to tear me down and do psychological warfare, and I'm not with the shit. And so I act pompous sometimes, and it would seem conceited when really it's all reactive abuse. And so you have a lot of people that have an issue with me, really, and they're very subjective and biased, and they can see the truth in situations, and they purposely act like they don't see it, and they're painting false narratives, and it's just a nightmare that I'm stuck in. I can't wake up from. So anyways, y'all know the situation that happened in the part 1 video, the sabotaging video, right? I was talking about this incident that occurred between this person in my close circle and myself. That's what led to me talking about the situation with the dude in the gym again in the first place. She and I were having a conversation in my room, right? They started doing a bunch of gang stalking bullshit in the background while she and I are having this conversation. I'm telling her, like, don't you hear the Rev campaign outside? Don't you see the flag? They kept diving the insect in my face, and hers for that matter. And she's gaslighting as usual, of course, and pretending like these are just regular noises and flies and it's not targeting. And, they were just doing horrible stuff from the time I started loosening out her hair, because what was happening was she came to me and asked me to loose her hair out. I went for a drive. I'm already dealing with so much crazy shit as it is. I went for a drive to clear my head. I came home. I had pizza. I was just trying to relax. I didn't feel like loosening hair out a whole head. But I did it anyway because she asked me. And I know if I needed the favor, I would want her to do the same. Had I known what was going to happen, I would have told her, no, go ask mommy. So anyway, I didn't mean to, I'm trying not to say relationships, y'all. So anyway, I sat there and I loosed her hair out. As soon as I start loosening her hair out, they start doing dumb, stupid shit in the background. I'm taking my time. They see me with the light. I put my phone light on. I'm flashing the light to make sure I'm cutting. She had a sew-in in. I'm flashing the light close to her scalp to make sure I'm cutting the string and not her hair. I'm being very meticulous and careful. And to be spiteful, they're purposely making noises like I'm going to cut her hair or I'm going to do something. It's just this tactic they use when it comes to that relationship because of something I said about the relationship from years prior when I was in my early 20s. And so, of course, when you say certain things, they take things and they utilize it against you in the targeting. That's not the only incident or occurrence where I said something or was candid or transparent about something, thinking I'm being transparent, and it bit me in the ass. So anyway, nonetheless, it's just the source of contention there, and they've used that and they've utilized that relationship against me in the targeting. And then they paint false narratives and they do unfair shit because of bias and subjectivity. So anyway, I'm loosening out her hair and I'm ignoring them with their dumb shit because I knew they were trying to just get under my skin. And I finally get through loosening out her hair. And then she starts having this conversation with me about some interaction with this guy from her job that she's having, right? And while she's telling me about this guy from her job, she starts inserting directed convos when two people are talking in the vicinity of where you're at, and their conversation is directed at you. So they might be talking about shit, random shit, like two people having dinner together, but they're ladled, the conversation will be ladled with innuendos directed at you. So not directed convo. She and I were talking to each other. So just conversation with innuendo though. Like she started referencing things that applied to that situation in the gym. So she was being malicious to me first, and I had just loosed her whole head out. You know, this is the stuff they do. They're very subjective and biased. And I was sitting there genuinely talking with her, and I realized that what she started doing. You know, it was already bad enough they were in the background making noises and trying to create stuff and staring at me as usual, trying to get a reaction. But then she starts telling me about this person from her job. But then it almost like turned into like low-key a brag. And with the brag, it was almost like she was trying to insinuate things about my situation with the personal trainer, and false things at that. And so, you know, it's just this thing she was doing. And she was putting innuendo in the conversation. And then she even mentioned trash. You know, she had a cup in her hand. She mentioned trash. And of course, they're going crazy in the background and making noises. So I remember thinking to myself, wait a minute. She's low-key taking shots at me, though, in this conversation. And they're doing noise campaigns in the background. And so to me, that's a weird energy because, you know, it's like low-key, it feels like you have a problem with me or you don't care for me as a person. You know, I've already talked about some things that's happened with this person, and not even just her, I don't want to say the relationship, the other person in my close circle that the other relative, that's the same type of relative, if that makes sense. This thing happened when I was in the States where I almost lost my life, and I was telling the two of them about it. And they were gang stalking me on the phone while I'm telling them, like, it's the wee hours of the morning, and somebody literally almost came up to my car with a crowbar. You know, I'm just like, damn, like, it's so cold. And they're making it like I'm this cold person, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and I'm the one with the problem. And I just can't stand these people, you know. They're just so fucking subjective. Anyway, excuse my language. So anyways, I've kind of came home with that feeling like they don't care for me. You know, like, we grew up close. Anybody that knew us knew how close we were. This is why I thought witchcraft was done. Because some of the actions they took and the way the relationship turned, like how it did, that's not how we grew up. We were very close. Anybody that knew us used to tell us how lucky we were, how rare it was to see siblings so close. Like, my life wasn't what it is now. They have this whole warped perception of the family dynamic in my household because they're looking at what's happening now. The whole reason I thought witchcraft was done was because of the drastic change in the relationships in my household. That's not the family I grew up with or the relationships we had growing up. Anyway, so nonetheless, it's just this cold kind of like reptile behavior, man. Like, and they're making it like I'm the one that's cold, and then they wonder why I'm so detached and cold and this and that, and it's just lunacy to me. Anyway, so nonetheless, then come home kind of feeling that way, like they don't care for me. So anyway, now, fast forward to now, y'all, because I don't want to go all over the place and go off on tangents. So we're having this conversation. I just sat there and loosed your hair out. I didn't feel like it. It's my Sunday. I'm trying to relax. I did you that favor. Now you're telling me about this person from your job. I'm genuinely listening, even though there's noise campaigns going on in the back and them trying to create stuff and get a reaction. But then you're inserting not directed convo, innuendos in the conversation and low-key taking dabs at me, you know, and painting this false narrative too about what took place between the guy in the gym and myself, which is nothing, by the way. Him and I had nothing. We had nothing. What I did was I made a stupid comment like a dum-dum as my own tactic because they were putting this annoying cocky ass dude on top of me that was obviously a gang stalker, and it backfired months down the line. It wasn't an immediate backfire. It wasn't me shooting my shot at him. I didn't think we were going to get together. When I actually did get the man's number, I didn't use it. I've never shot my shot at a man. These people have been digging in my past, y'all. They've contacted almost every ex I've ever dated. They've contacted and used dudes that I had just talked to briefly, didn't even date, as gang stalkers. All of those men hit on me. Any interaction I've had with a man, they have hit on me. I'm a very shy, awkward person. There's one time in my life why I ever actually hit on a man. I don't do that. I'm too shy and awkward. First of all, you can look at my inbox on Facebook. and what that looks like. I don't need to hit on a man. There's only one man in my life that I genuinely did actually hit on. And you wouldn't believe the type of luck that I had with the situation. I talked about it in the prior videos where I found out after the fact that he was actually cousins with the cyber stalking, cyberbullying dude. I hit on him because I knew who he was ahead of time. I had no clue he was related to that dude. He was cousins with the dude that I thought I was in love with in high school. And I was back on island. I had went through that horrible, tumultuous thing with my ex in Florida. The same ex that I was with initially, y'all. Then I broke up with him because I felt like we were too serious, too fast. And then 2 years later, he took my virginity. We got back together and he was leading me on, etc. I had moved back on island. Remember, this was around the time when I was dealing with alcoholism and things were really dark in my life, in my early 20s. That was when this happened. So I need you to understand I was at a very low state when this took place. I never have hit on a man in my life aside from that one situation, that one isolated situation. I've lived in Florida. I've lived here on island. I've traveled. I've dealt with several men. I've dated multiple men. I made a whole video showing a little small handful of the men that I have dealt with in my life and been in relationships with. Every single one of those men hit on me. I don't shoot my shot at men. I don't do that. It happened one time genuinely, and I was very planned and specific. I knew who the dude was ahead of time. I knew he was cousins with the dude from high school that I thought I was in love with, and I was back on island, and I was depressed, and I was dealing with alcoholism. Stupid ass decision. I was at a very low state in my life. I had no clue he was related to the freaking dude, the cyber stalker. I keep saying this because they started using him as a gang stalker recently because of what happened with the dude, the personal trainer's girlfriend, right? They pulled every fucking trick out the book that they could pull out because things went awry with that, whatever they were trying to do with that dude's girlfriend. They're pulling out old shit from years ago, from over a decade ago. That was a one and done situation. I have never hit on a man in my life aside from that one dude. And I was humiliated when I learned he was cousins with the cyber stalking, cyberbullying dude. And I didn't learn until him and I became friends on Facebook. And then I saw his last name and I said, oh shit. I had no clue. And I know they did the research and they know what I'm saying is true. I know they know he's cousins with the dude because I know they done contacted that dude too, the dude from high school that I thought I was in love with. Back then, by the way, I don't feel that way now. I had a whole conversation with the man about a year ago, and it was good vibes, just like seemed like my old friend or whatever, but I didn't feel the butterflies. I didn't feel any kind of anything really. And he's married. He just had his second baby, right? He had one child years ago that I knew of, and recently he just had a second baby. Like, I'm not even feeling that way about this man anymore. That was over a decade ago when I had those feelings. But all of that's coming into play now because, there are certain things correlated with him that tie back to the cyber stalking, cyberbullying dude. It's just luck, man. I keep saying it's like this weird cosmic thing with this man, the cyber stalking, cyberbullying dude. Even my family moving into the neighborhood where his family lives. And then his father getting to play a role in my gang stalking when my targeting first started. And kind of linking up with my dad. Like, it's just this weird cosmic thing with this man. I had no clue the freaking dude. I had wanted to talk about this. I did kind of briefly talk about it. I think it was not the last video, the video before the last one. One of those videos I had just recently talked about the situation. I'm going more in depth now. I had no freaking clue. I wanted to do a Lilo and Stitch. The millennials know about Lilo and Stitch. You know how Stitch can eat something? Not to use that of all examples to give, right? But you know how Stitch can eat something and then spit it out and it'll come out perfect like he didn't eat it or like it never was digested, and then he can eat it again? When I found out this man was related to the cyber stalking, cyberbullying dude, I wanted to jump off a cliff and do a Stitch and rewind and jump again and rewind and jump again. Like, I was so mortified. There was no malicious intent on my part. I had no clue he was related. It's just like the luck is so terrible when it comes to this man. It's like this cosmic bad luck shit, tie up thing. I don't know what it is, man. Anyway, I had no clue, but just wanted to give you an example, not to bring that guy up. I just wanted to give you an example of the one time in my entire 34 years on Earth that I ever shot a shot at a man. It was that one dude, and it was very specific. It wasn't a random dude that I just said, "Oh, he looks good, I'm gonna hit on him." No, I knew who he was ahead of time. I knew who he was since high school because that dude used to tell me, I don't know what they're flying that by for. Anyway, that dude used to tell me about his friends and his cousins and stuff, and on his Facebook, he had a picture. I don't even know if he still has the picture. He deactivated his Facebook, so I don't even know if the man is still on Facebook now or not. But he actually had a picture of the two of them on the basketball court together. They're the same age. They're in the same age group. That dude's other cousin, the cyberstalking, cyberbullying dude, is way older than us. He's almost a decade older than us. So I don't even think he hangs out with that cousin, even though they share a last name. But he hung out with the one from high school, though. So it was very specific. I knew who he was. It wasn't like a random, "Ooh, I'm the kind of girl that hits on men and shoots my shot at men." I've never done that in my life. That was a one and done situation. And I was in a very low state at the time. And it was a spur of the moment thing too. It wasn't planned. So anyway, I just did it because I knew who he was ahead of time. It was very specific. But I've never shot my shot at a man aside from that man. The dude in the gym, that wasn't me shooting my shot at him. I didn't ask him for his number. I didn't add him on Facebook. I made a comment in a video as some sort of tactic that backfired down the line. And when the man actually gave me his number, I didn't use it. So anyways, it's not correlated. And the two incidents occurred almost a decade apart. Every other dude they have contacted for me, I know they've had interviews and conversations with these people. They hit on me and asked me for my number. Even the cyberstalking, cyberbullying dude himself, he hit on me on Instagram twice. And I answered him the second time. The dude from high school, that was my good friend, my best friend. How we started talking was we had gym class together. He asked me for my number. So anyway, I just had to make that clear because they're doing a bunch of bullshit with the technology and painting false narratives. But that was part of the conversation she and I were having where she was making certain comments. And we know each other. I know, anyway. So she was making certain comments and putting innuendos in the conversation about this gym dude, right? And doing this kind of weird thing. And they were making noises in the back. And then you even had a family member open the door and kind of start rubbing things in. "Are you okay? Your eyes are starting to look like this." It's this weird bullying thing with them. And the gaslighting too. And then you gaslight about the reaction I'm having when you're putting innuendos in the conversation, obviously trying to do something. And then you have all the people in the neighborhood who have an issue with me doing noise campaigns in the background. And they were doing that anyways, before she even started talking about the situation. So y'all, you would have to check out the part 1 sabotaging and gaslighting video of the targeted individual to hear the whole rundown about what took place between that person and myself. But it definitely wasn't something that I was doing. There was even this other thing that she was bragging about that kind of backfired too. I know that's why they really started attacking me hardcore too. I noticed that's when they started to fly cockroaches at me and stuff. Again, something that was out of my control. There was this, dude that she went to. We both kind of went to private school with this person, but she was in school with him longer, even though he's much older than her. He's older than the two of us, actually. I think he's like 1 or 2 grades ahead of me. Y'all, I'm so annoyed. This is the next day. I created a whole clip continuing what I was saying in the last clip, and the whole video was deleted somehow. After I hit end record, the video wasn't there. And I said some very clear and specific things. It was a good clip. So to have to redo the whole thing is so annoying. It's actually the next day I got so discouraged and it was time for me to get off work too. I waited till the next day now to continue the video. Anyways, y'all, let me hurry up and wrap things up. So there was another incident where she was kind of doing this bragging thing with this guy. Look at how they're diving the bird down and losing their mind. They're losing it, I'm telling you. This is partially why they started giving me all this heinous treatment too. It was 2 things that happened that they didn't like. It was the thing with the personal trainer's girlfriend. The whole last 2 months, the retribution I've received because of that interaction between she and I that didn't go the way they wanted it to go. And then this thing with this person in my close circle. It's to the point now where they started this campaign where they're wearing green and gaslighting about the situation and what took place. It's just, this is why I'm talking about it. Because I was so irritated. I know they know full well what took place and I know they saw everything that happened. But they're still pushing this thing where they're wearing green. And I just thought it was hilarious. So I wasn't going to talk about it. But now that I'm making this video and I keep getting certain sensitization with the technology and I'm going out and dealing with gang stalking pertaining to the situation, I said, let me talk about it for real, because it's just, the gaslighting is phenomenal to me. Anyway, so there was another incident with this dude where she was kind of bragging too, and it backfired, where I talked about this actually in the part 1 video. The part 1 sabotaging and gaslighting of the targeted individual video, the one I told you all to start at before you listen to this video, where the whole saga began. I talked about it in that video very briefly, but there was this guy that she and I went to private school, and I listened back to the last clip when they said we went to private school with him. So the first private school that I went to, and the school that the person in my close circle, the person I'm talking about, graduated from. She graduated from that school. I left at the end of 7th grade. But that first school, we went to school with these two brothers. I don't know them like that. I wasn't in school with them long because, like I said, I left at the end of 7th grade. So I was in that school from nursery all the way up to 7th grade. 8th grade, I went to a different private school. I was in Catholic school. And then 9th grade through 12th grade, I was in public school. So even though I was there for majority of my life, there are some people that came after or came into the picture after the fact, like they might have joined the school a year or two before I left, that I don't know like that, right? And this is one of those people. First of all, he's like a grade or two ahead of me, or he was we're not in school anymore, but back then he was a grade or two ahead of me, right? And then he came later, like I said, in my school career at that school. So I don't know the guy like that. He doesn't know me like that. His brother doesn't know me like that. I'm sure they know who I am, just like I know who they are. But we don't know each other like that, right? So anyway, and you have to understand, if he's 1 to 2 years older than me, then you have to know he's significantly older than this person in my close circle, because she's 4 years and change younger than me. So she's basically 5 years, you could round it, younger than me. So I remember I had just went on Facebook, and the older brother, not the younger brother that this whole little mini incident occurred with, it was the older brother. He used to come to the gym. The old gym I used to go to, he used to be in there. A few times I saw him in there, and he even had a girlfriend in there. He never tried to hit on me. He wasn't one of the ones that had checked me out. He wasn't sending me messages. He wasn't liking my stuff. I was friends with him back in the day on Facebook. And there was no interaction then either. I don't know him like that, right? No disrespect. I don't have a problem with the man. He never did anything, like I said, to reach out to me or to indicate interest, all right? I'm just letting you know what took place and then what she said a couple days after whatever it is took place. So I was on Facebook, and someone else in our close circle, another relative that also went to that same private school, and she's older than the two of us. She's older than me. And she's older than the person that I'm talking about that, I was having the conversation with. The whole documentation I'm talking about, y'all, in part 1 that was doing whatever, where she was putting innuendos in the conversation about the dude from the gym while telling me about this situation with this guy from her job. This other relative that's older than the two of us also went to the same private school, right? And so she even, I could say, would have been in school with those guys longer, because she was in that private school longer than I was as well. She left at the end of 10th grade. So she did 11th and 12th grade in public school. But she was in the same grade with the older brother, the one that ended up liking a comment that I put under her post. It was just a comment. So she put up a post talking about the vaccine and how people are basically getting sick from the vaccine, and, all these health things are coming up and they're doing studies and finding out certain stuff. And it was a post basically about detoxing and getting heavy metals out of your body and how you could detox the vaccine out of your body. So I read the post and I simply put like a biblical verse talking about the herb yielding seed. That's from Genesis. There's a verse in Genesis talking about using the herb yielding seed. So it's basically, again, just a reference to insinuate that you can use the herbs from the earth to heal your body. I'm into holistic health and natural health, and actually all of us are to a certain degree, but I'm really into it, and I've been into it for years. So I'm into natural medicine and healing yourself naturally. So I put that post in, and I think I wrote some generic thing underneath saying that you can heal your body with herbs and food and use that as medicine, something like that, some generic post, right? So the brother, not the one that she had, like I said, kind of did this bragging thing with. I'm about to tell you what she did. The older brother just simply loved the post. He didn't poke me. He didn't write me a message. He didn't send me a friend request. He just loved the post. So I saw it, and they're seeing everything that's going on with me. Everybody's seeing everything that's happening with me 24/7. There are cameras on me. There's something in my brain, the RFID chip, which is an acronym for radio frequency identifier. So they're reading my thoughts. They're seeing everything that's going on with me. So anyway, I read the comment and I saw so-and-so. I read his name in my head. I said, so-and-so loved your comment. So I read it in my head. So I know she had to have seen that happened. But anyway, after it happened, I didn't think about it. I didn't say anything about it. It just passed. The moment passed. Literally 2 days later after it happened, I left my room and I went to the kitchen to get something out the fridge. And she was sitting on the bed with someone else in my close circle, another relative. This is a guy, he's younger than us. He also went to that school, by the way. She's sitting on the bed with him and she's talking to him and she was telling him about something. And then as soon as I got in the kitchen, she just randomly brought up the brother, not the one that liked my post, the younger brother, who's also older than me. So the older brother was in the person whose post I commented under, the relative whose post I commented under, who's older than the two of us. He was in the same grade as her, that older brother. The younger brother, who this person, when I went into the kitchen, started bragging about, was also older than the two of us. He was about a grade or two ahead of me and however many grades ahead of this person that's younger than me, because she's about 5 years younger than me. So anyway, I go in the kitchen and I'm just grabbing something. She changes the subject and randomly brings him up, right? Not the brother that reacted to my post, but his younger brother who's also older than the two of us. She randomly brings him up and starts saying, oh, did you notice? She wasn't saying it to me. She was saying it to our other relative, the guy that she was sitting on the bed with. Did you notice anytime I come around, so-and-so starts blushing? He's always blushing and do whatever she was saying. I can't remember verbatim what she said, and I don't really want to bring the whole thing up again. They're going ham with the birds. They're very subjective. It's to the point where they know what I'm saying is true, y'all. It's to the point where I created this video, like I said yesterday, and it was deleted when I ended the clip because they know they're full of bullshit. They're pushing this whole green thing and wearing green and trying to push envy with the craziness when they saw everything that happened. That's why they're chirping the birds and going so ham. They're like blatantly and willfully subjective. It's just really perturbing. And I'm dealing with that across the board. It's not even just this one situation. This is literally what happened with the personal trainer's girlfriend too, even in that situation. And every situation that I'm dealing with, that's just how it is when you're targeted. So anyways, so as soon as I get in the kitchen, she brings the dude up and starts talking about how he's always blushing when she comes around and this and that. And she then brings me into the conversation and she said, you know him, don't you, so-and-so? Called my name, right? She said, you know him, don't you, Sharifa? I said, kind of. I said, I don't really know him like that. You have to remember I left the school at the end of 7th grade. And I said, I remember he came to that school later. So I do know him and his brother, like I know who they are. But I don't know him like that. I wasn't really in school with them like that. I was in school with them for like maybe a year or two. And she said, oh, are you sure? I thought you knew him. Da, da, da. I said, no, not really. I said, I don't really know them like that. I know who they are. So then she started saying how when he was saying blushing one time, he was talking to her. And what happens is she made friends with this girl that she's in drama. She's in some sort of drama thing with this coworker, this teacher that used to work with my mom, right? And so she kind of joined this acting thing, this like drama club type thing with that teacher. And so she met this girl in that club. And so this girl that's now her friend is cousins with that dude. And so that's how they end up in the same vicinity or whatever is going on. So she said basically how he started having this conversation with her and he said, you're so-and-so, right? And he said her name. And she said, yeah. And she said, you know who I am? Are you sure you're not confusing me with so-and-so? And she said, my name. And he said, no, you're so-and-so, right? And he said her name. This is what she's telling me happened. This is the interaction she's telling me happened. I just like basically like insinuating that almost as if like he didn't know who I was, is kind of how she was making the conversation seem, and how she brought me up like thinking he was confusing the two of us, and that wasn't the case. And so in my head, I'm just like, why would you even bring me up? You know, I'm targeted, first of all. So everyone knows who I am at this point. Even if you didn't know who I was before the targeted, you damn sure know who I am now. But not only that, we have an older relative that was a dean at that school for many years. So most of the people in that school know who we are. So it's just not the good thing where you're going to confuse us. It's just not going to happen. And it almost seemed more so like a low-key, like a brag type thing she was doing. And I'm in my head, I'm like, it's coincidental because the older brother had just reacted to my post 2 days ago. And then now randomly I come in the kitchen and she randomly brings the dude up. But anyway, I didn't make no big deal about it. But then as she's talking about it, I said, okay, well, I don't really know them like that. I said, but it's a coincidence that you're telling me this, because literally 2 days ago, the older brother reacted to a comment that I put under so-and-so's post. And so-and-so is our other relative. Remember, I told you the older relative that went to the same school as us. So she said, oh, he probably just thought you were me, because both of them followed me. This is what she said to me, saying the older brother probably mistake the reason he reacted to my comment is because he probably thought I was her, and that both of them had followed her on Instagram recently, and they've been liking up her stuff, and they've been liking her stuff, and they're on every post. And I'm just in my head, I'm like, first of all, these people know the difference. The older brother was in the gym with me several times. They know the difference between us. I'm a target. So I'm in my head, it wasn't a big deal. I just said, probably, girl. I said, you know what, probably. And I just went in my room. But in my head, I'm just thinking, I know the whole neighborhood was watching the interaction, and they can't stand me in that neighborhood just as much as I can't stand them. They're very biased and subjective in that neighborhood, and they torture me relentlessly until I have these nasty, rotten reactions. And then, of course, the program uses the reactions as a means to do more to me, because they just have a problem with me in general. It's a very deep situation I'm dealing with, y'all. I'm in deep. I'm in very deep. It goes very deep, this thing. Anyway, so nonetheless, had it been the roles reversed, right, and I did what she did and I said what she said, they would have been revving and going, I guarantee you they would have been going crazy in the background. And I guarantee you they would have been diving flies in my face too. But me being humble and knowing how the situation works and having come to terms with certain things and certain unfair treatment and how it works, I just said, probably, girl. And I just went in my room. But I remember thinking in my head, what the heck? I just remember thinking the whole situation was kind of odd. But I didn't make anything of it. I wasn't even going to talk about it in a video. The only reason I talked about it was because then that situation in the part 1 sabotaging and gaslighting of the targeted individual video happened. The whole thing that's been happening these last 2 months, in addition to what happened with the personal trainer and his ex-girlfriend. That whole moment that we had on the bed where she came in my room and then she was talking about another situation with another dude from her job, but then also throwing in innuendos about what took place between the guy in the gym and myself, the personal trainer, knowing how sensitive of a subject that is, knowing all the fucking harassment and backlash, they're all seeing what's happening, that I got over the situation. Why would you do something like that? But I'm the one with the problem, and I'm green, and I'm this and that. They're so full of shit. So anyways, nonetheless, they were in the background making noises when we were having that conversation in my room. Fast forwarding now to the other conversation that we had. And then it created this whole thing with the technology where they were gaslighting me about the reaction I started having to that interaction she and I were having in our room. When she was inserting innuendos in the convo, they were doing noise campaigns in the background. You even had a family member peep her head in and say something taunting. So that was what made me create the video. I couldn't believe the gaslighting. And then that was when I brought up that incident that happened with that other dude, that random dude that went to private school with us, because that's so irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. But I just brought it up as an example to show, look, here's another example of a situation where had I been the one that said the thing she said, they would have been going ham about it. Because those two dudes are irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. I don't have an issue with them. We went to school with them. I don't know them like that. They never tried to talk to me. I don't know what perception of an interaction she had with them was, or what truly did happen or didn't happen. I don't know her to be a liar, right? I don't know her to lie about things. Maybe she perceived that this is what took place and they're doing this and they're doing that. But why would you say this on camera anyway? Even if that is your perception of what took place and these people are watching. You think somebody wants to hear you bragging on them like that? Anyway, whatever the case is, I don't have the same. I don't know them like that. I didn't have an interaction with them. The older brother saw my post. He reacted to it, and I think she saw that. And I think when I went to the kitchen, that's why she did that bragging thing. But for me, the reason I'm bringing it up or even talking about it is, again, because what then took place in my room and what they gaslit me about. And what led to what, because that literally is what led to what happened with the personal trainer's girlfriend, just so you know. Because of what she did in that conversation in the room, and they were doing the noise campaigns in the background, I made a video again reiterating what took place between the personal trainer and myself. And then they used that as a moment to set up something with his girlfriend. They wanted to do that anyway. They have been throwing that girl on me since that man got with her. And they weren't getting the reaction they wanted out of me. So then they set up this bullying thing, like tactic with the girlfriend, and it backfired, and I got even more backlash for it. That's what this whole green thing is really about. I'm not stupid. And then they're pushing the white people thing, and obviously it'll be easy to recruit white people to join in, because I did say offensive things about them 3 years ago. I shared extremely offensive Hebrew Israelite propaganda. So they would gladly join the campaign. I don't blame them. But you're gaslighting. That's not what this is about. Anyway, nonetheless, so I had to talk about it though, y'all, because it's just like they're doing a bunch of gaslighting stuff, right? So now listen to what happened here now. So with that same dude that she bragged on, not the dude for her job, but the dude we went to private school with, after I made that part 1 video where I briefly mentioned what happened in the kitchen with her and I, where she was bragging on the dude and how she was making it like he didn't know who I was, and like they're confusing the two of us. Then the brother walked in front of my car. I was driving in town. I just took a drive. He purposely crossed right in front of my vehicle. You know the program didn't like that. The program can't stand me. He's not crossing in front of my vehicle because he's taking a shot at me or anything like that. He's doing that to show that he does know who I am. And I think he did that because he didn't like what she was doing. That had nothing to do with me. That moment that man walked in front of my car, you know. I think that had everything to do with what she did, because I'm pretty sure he didn't like how she was bragging on him. Nobody would like to hear that. Who would want to hear somebody saying the stuff she was saying? Like, I'm just like, are you thinking? You know these people are looking and seeing everything that's going on. That's what that moment was. It's obvious. That's why he crossed in front of my car. But of course the program doesn't like that, because they're trying to perpetuate a certain narrative. And they want to paint the false narrative of me being this envious green, whatever crazy shit with their delusion. They just have a problem with me, man. It's not fair. I've been dealing with a lot of unfair stuff. So anyways, nonetheless, and I don't have a problem with this person, you know, because again, I'm older, and even though like I have certain feelings towards her and the other person that's the same relation to me, that's older than me, due to how they handled certain things in my targeting, and just like me being like, oh my God, how could you? Like, this is why I even thought witchcraft was going on, because if you knew how close we were when we were younger, you would understand my shock to certain things and certain treatment, and me being in life and death situations in Florida, and them acting so cold about it. So it's never really been the same. And even now, they're gaslighting me about the targeting too. It's just, and then they want to gaslight that I'm cold. Anyway, so nonetheless, whatever the case is, so that happened, right? With that interaction that I made the video, that part 1 sabotaging and gaslighting video, and then he crossed in front of my car and all this. So I think that tiffed her, and she's been in a real funky kind of mood with me. I mean, the last 2 days I had an interaction with her, and she seemed like in a more chipper mood, I guess because she see the whole island took on her side, I guess. Not the whole island, it's not everyone, but like a good chunk of people, because there are people that have issues with me. There's a lot of people, so they would hop on board with anything. Today, right now, there are a lot of people that have issues with me. They can see very clearly what's going on, and they will still hop in and throw green on the body and act stupid. Anyway, so nonetheless, she was having this kind of pissy attitude with me, though, when I made the part 1 video. I recall she was just having this nasty attitude, and we even got in several fights over petty little stuff where she was overreacting. I'm like, why is she talking to me like this? For several things, right? So we even had this one fight, and then she was like, you're weird. You keep making these videos and, you know, curling with me. Like, I remember I had seen, when I was still in the old gym, I was doing deadlifts on the Monday, And I literally saw 2 days later, she put up a story where she was doing deadlifts, attempting deadlifts. And I saw her do that before, where I was doing Bulgarian split squats. And then the next day I saw her doing Bulgarian split squats in her story. And they even started revving by when I watched the story like it was agitating them, when I hadn't even said anything about it. I actually thought it was cute because I'm older. And if you're looking up to me and you're taking something from me that's positive, then obviously I would think that's a good thing. I didn't have an issue with that. It wasn't until she started doing all these petty, low-key, weird stuff, and I'm like, you don't care for me, but you're copying what I'm doing. That's where it becomes an issue. That's weird. So anyway, they were the ones that started this copying thing, the program, by the way, y'all. Every time I would hit copy and paste for something, they're making the birds go off in the back. So I'm like, okay. You know, they started trying to create this sensitization with the word copy. I hadn't said anything about it yet. So when it really became a thing where I actually did say something was after I made the part 1 video where I talked about the whole weird conversation in our room, in my room, where she was, you know, putting innuendos in the conversation about the guy from the gym. And so then, you know, about maybe like 2 weeks later, she all of a sudden wanted to complain about the video. She had already confronted me about it, you know, in the kitchen. She was like, you know, I kind of heard the tail end of one of your videos and I heard you mention my ex-boyfriend's name. And you have to understand, y'all, they were using, it's a long story. Again, you have to keep up with the videos or you're going to be very confused with what's going on. It's a lot that's happened. They were using in the old gym this guy that has the same name as one of her first relationships or relations, whatever. It was a complicated situation with her. I'm not trying to talk about her stuff and get into more problems. But she also had something with the guy that they used in the gym as a gang stalker on me. But not anything like a relationship. She had a crush on him. And so she and I had this conversation in my room like 3 years ago, talking about different dudes we used to talk to or date or whatever. And she was mentioning, oh, do you remember the embarrassing thing with so-and-so? And she said his name and she was talking about how she had the crush on him and it was so embarrassing. Mind you, she knew everyone was watching and we were on camera. Was she shooting her shot at him when she had that convo with me? She knew he was looking. Anyway, nonetheless, I just can't take the craziness with these people. But anyway, whatever the case is, they started using him as a gang stalker on me in the gym. He was one of the dudes they were using to do the thirsty thing. But initially, he was one of those that was actually being polite. He wasn't being nasty about it like some of them. When he got rowdy was when they sent him again in there, you know, to do the stupid thing, to kind of just be in the area around me. And he came to the back room one day when this was in the old gym. And he came right next to me while I was on the adductor machine. I just didn't feel like dealing with the gang stalking. And he did this big smile at me and I just politely nodded and I got up and I left as soon as he came back there. And so I went on the leg extension machine and I noticed a couple minutes later he came out slowly. So then he went on the cable machine, which is nearby. And then they had this other dude that they recruited, someone I used to talk to back in the day. By the way, another one of those bitter dudes that they have recruited that apparently had an issue with me that I didn't even realize. He was guzzling the water and going ham.com. So that was when I started to rebuke it in the name of Jesus. And I didn't feel like dealing with it that day. And I just started to, I just rebuked this in the name of Jesus. I plead the blood of Jesus on me. I started saying all that, man. And the dude for her, the person in my close circle, he left. It's like what I was saying offended him. And then when I went to my house, I noticed he was outside the neighbor's yard. Like, this is how small the island is, y'all. It's a population of about 45,000 people, but a lot of people know each other. He happens to be good friends with the neighbor's grandson. And at the time, they happened to be doing renovations on their house. I talked about this in one of the prior videos, y'all. So for about 2 weeks, they started using this man as a gang stalker on me. Next door, while I'm in my room, uncomfortable, and he's staring at me while I'm in my room doing weird noises. Every time they're sending horrible stuff with the technology, he's slamming stuff in the garbage. And so they started using his name as sensitization, as if that were some sort of moment to make me feel bad. Them doing that weird stuff. Like, this is all the weird stuff I have been dealing with, y'all, as it pertains to the personal trainer and the gym and this person in my close circle. It's like all correlated and tied together. But she saw everything. She knows they used him as a gang stalker on me. So she knows why I brought up the situation and brought his name up in the video. She's still quarreling with me about it like she don't know what's going on. Gaslighting. Anyway, when I initially made the video, she just kind of talked to me in the kitchen, like, don't mention me or anyone related in relation to me, whatever. I said, okay, no problem. Because typically I don't do that. I don't do that anymore. This was the first time in years that I had mentioned specifically anyone to her, for her, anyone in my close circle. But I just, to avoid problems, I said, okay, no problem, because I know she knows what's going on. But I said, okay, no problem. Now, 2 weeks later, right, all of this stuff is going on where, you know, she had the conversation with me in her room, and in my room, excuse me, where she was inserting innuendos about the situation that happened with the personal trainer and myself, while also kind of talking about this thing that's happening with this guy at her job. And so I made the video about it, and it seems to have tiffed her or pissed her off, right? No, I had already made that video. I'm sorry. I had already made that video, and she talked to me about it in the kitchen. So now 2 weeks later, she had started doing deadlifts. You know, I had just done the deadlifts on Monday, and then on Wednesday, I saw she put up a story doing deadlifts. So I thought it was cute, despite everything that's going on, despite the horrible conversation that we had in my room that I made the video about that led to the annoying situation with the personal trainer's girlfriend. Despite all of that, I still saw that it was something that looked like emulation, like she was emulating or trying to at least emulate what I was doing, and she's been doing that anyway. And I've been giving her tips. You know, they're trying to do this gaslighting thing, like I didn't want to, like she's looking up to me and she wanted to do what I was doing and I'm making it like she's copying me. No, you know what took place recently and what led to what's going on. When she initially started wanting to work out at my gym, I told her I would actually switch gyms with her. I said, listen, I can't work out in the evening time, you know. I said, and I know she knows full well what was going on in the gym at the time. I said, there's something going on in my gym where I don't want to work out in the evening time. There are some guys going there in the evening that I don't want to work out around. I said, you have some options. You can either go there and get a personal trainer because they have personal trainers there. You can take your lunch break and come if you have the time and I can train you then. Or I can switch gyms with you. Because all back then I was contemplating switching gyms because all the Gangstalking stupid shit they were doing. And it wasn't so much the bullying. I could do it. I don't give a rat's ass. It was tactics being used to the point where I'm feeling like it's interfering with my workout. That's what ultimately led to me getting a new gym, was that day after Thanksgiving where it seems like they closed the gym. It's not the Gangstalking. That's so annoying, and I was so tired of dealing with it, and I was contemplating leaving just for that simple fact. But it's when my workout starts getting impeded or interfered with, that's where you're now messing with me for real. That was ultimately what led to me getting into a new gym. Anyway, so when she first told me she was going into the gym, I said, I will even switch gyms with you. I said, girl, I've been thinking about it anyways. And she said, okay, well, I'm going to go this evening and I'm going to talk to somebody and see, and I'll let you know. She ended up getting a personal trainer in the gym. So I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. So now this is months later, and this thing happened where I made the sabotaging part 1 video. I mentioned our interaction and what took place and how they were gaslighting about my reaction. She talked to me about it the day I made the video. Like I said, she kind of confronted me in the kitchen, and that was it. It was like 2 weeks later, and I saw that she did a deadlift video on her story on Facebook, and it was literally 2 days after I had just been deadlifting on the Monday in the gym, and they know I do deadlifts all the time. So she was like, she was attempting to do the deadlifts. So I thought that was cute, despite everything that was going on. And so I wrote under the story, and I just commented on her form, and I said, good job. I said, you're doing a good job. I said, I forgot what I told her, just lean a little bit more back in it or something like that. I was telling her about her form, giving her advice. You know, the girl came home and started flashing on me, flipping out on me, pretending like she's just hearing my videos for the first time. I know they sit there and they listen every time I make a video. And it was the same video she had just confronted me about in the kitchen 2 weeks prior. All of a sudden, she's like flipping out on me and going ham.com on me about it. And you're weird. You keep making these videos about gaslighting. And she knows the girlfriend called me weird too, by the way, when she was fibrillate and malfunctioning after I took the picture. Anyway, she's like, and you're weird. And then I said, no, what's weird is you having an issue with me and not really caring for me, but you're copying everything I'm doing. I said, that's what's weird. So yeah, sorry y'all, I see somebody pulling up outside. I thought it was my coworker, but no, it's not. No, not somebody pulling up outside, but I see a vehicle at the building next door. I thought it was somebody coming to pull up in front of my building. So anyway, she makes this making this comment about, you're weird. You keep making videos and it's weird. It's weird. I said, no, what's weird is you having an issue with me, but you're copying everything I'm doing. Because I'm like, why is she all of a sudden making a comment about a video I made 2 weeks ago that I know for a fact she saw already? Right after I commented on her story where she was doing the deadlifts, and I was actually giving her positive feedback. So I was like, okay, what is this really about? Why is she coming at me like this so aggressively? So anyway, that fight happened. And so things have been kind of on the rocks with she and I, and we weren't really interacting with each other. We don't much anyways. It's not like what it used to be. We really don't even move like people that are related, to be honest. And that's how it is with my whole family now, since this targeting thing has happened to me. There's like barely any interaction. We have like surface level interactions. It's not like what it used to be. I'm not the one with the issue. So anyways, now about maybe like a week ago, about 2 weeks ago, someone in my close circle, someone older in my close circle told me that they were getting a new fridge for the house. And they know I work out and I buy a bunch of, like vegetables and meals, and I meal prep food. I cook food ahead of time and I meal prep, and I have milk and I have juice and I have all kinds of items in the fridge, vegetables and this and that. I'm juicing, all kinds of stuff, y'all. So this person is always complaining about me taking up space in the fridge. So now that they were getting a new fridge for the house, and I'm talking about someone older that lives with us, not the same person I was just talking about. Now that they were getting a new fridge for the house, she told me, you could get this fridge. You could have the old fridge. We'll put it in your room for you. The only thing you need to do is clean it. I sat there and I cleaned that whole fridge. It was filthy. And I'm not meaning to say it like that, y'all, but like I explained to you all already, this is something they're teasing about us about in the targeting anyways, is the state of our house. Everyone in the house is depressed and going through stuff. The house has been unkept. It's not what you think. It's not like a hoarder's house, but it's pretty bad, especially for a house in the islands. Like the way people move in the islands is just, I can't explain it, y'all. They're very particular about stuff and judgmental. And, the fact that they're even allowing cameras in the house to people in my close circle with the state of the house is, I keep saying, beyond me. Because if you knew them and how they were when we were growing up, they were very funny about stuff like that. So all of that is where I felt like witchcraft was going on, to be honest with you. But that's not really helping my case saying that, right? Because that's part of them saying I bear false witness. I'm not saying anyone specific. I'm just saying it's weird. Something weird is going on. Anyway, nonetheless, the house is not what it was. Even in the old neighborhood, before the other relatives moved back home, when it was just the two older relatives and myself in the old neighborhood, the old house, I had my own bathroom. They had their own bathroom. They had the cameras in our house. They know how my bathroom looked and how my room looked. So now all these people are home. We're in this one old ass house. It's my grandparents' old house that they've had for years. The house is falling apart. We're not keeping up with stuff. We're not keeping up with cleaning. They're being extremely judgmental with the targeting, but they're only coming for me about it. They're not coming for anyone else in the house about it. Of course not, because I'm the target. So they keep throwing sensitization about nasty and this and that. And it's a mess. I just hate it. Anyway, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent. So the fridge was not in the best condition. There was old, juice at the bottom of the fridge, caked up. And they saw me. They watched on camera me clean that whole fridge. I scrubbed it. I knew she saw me clean it too. The person I had the fight with. I scrubbed and cleaned the whole fridge. Took me about an hour to clean the thing. So I bought a few items I had in there. Obviously, it ran out. I needed to go shopping again. I was just about to get food stamps. I know this sounds ghetto, but I don't have any shame in my game. I'm targeted. So I am getting government assistance. And that even sounds offensive too. Okay, because I'm targeted. There are people who just need the assistance, and it doesn't mean you're ghetto. You might have children and you don't have help from your partner or whatever it is. So I didn't mean to make that ignorant comment. It's just they're so judgmental with the targeting. I start to over-explain things. I'm getting government assistance. So nonetheless, I was getting food stamps on the coming Monday or whatever the case was. This was about a week ago. And so my fridge was looking kind of empty. I had ran out of stuff. It was time for me to get stuff. I had eggs in there. I had juice in there, and I had vegetables in there. But all my other stuff had ran out. So I left the house, and I come back, and I notice the fridge is full of brown bags, a bunch of brown paper bags. And it had writing on it, a bunch of it. It was just it took over my whole fridge. I didn't even realize my eggs had been taken out the fridge. So I said, what the heck is going on? And the fridge was off. So the stuff that I did have in there was about to spoil. I had milk in there. I had vegetables in the freezer. The freezer was full of stuff. The fridge was not. The fridge had juice, milk, and eggs. And I was about to go shopping and a few vegetables. The freezer was full of stuff. So anyway, I'm like, oh my God, the fridge is off. My stuff is spoiling. And then there's a bunch of brown bags packed up in the fridge. What's this? And I didn't have an attitude about it either. I was just trying to figure out what the hell was going on. So I remember going to the older person in my close circle and asking her what's going on. I said, hey, do you know what all those bags are in the fridge and why the fridge is off? She said, no, ask so-and-so. The same person I've been having the issue with, right? So I go and I knock on her door. I said, hey, are you the one that put all those brown bags in my fridge? And she said, yeah, and I said, wait a minute. I said, why are you talking to me like that? I said, I'm just asking you because I see that there's like no space in my fridge now and the fridge is off. And she said, well, when I came, the fridge was plugged out. I plugged it in and I put that stuff in. And I said, okay, don't talk to me like that though. I said, you could have asked me to put the stuff in my fridge and I would have gladly given you space. She said, it's for homeless people. I'm not even listening to what you're saying right now. I said, okay, it doesn't matter who it's for. It could be for Jesus Christ. It's my fridge. You could have spoken to me about it because my stuff is in there and now the fridge is off and not working. She said, well, I don't know what's going on. I just know the fridge was empty and I put my stuff in there. You sound dumb. Like she just started going ham on me. I'm like, why is she talking to me like this? I said, I don't care about who the bags are for because first of all, you're doing it for your job. It's not like you're feeding homeless people out of the goodness of your heart. I'm sure that is there too. You're not a bad person. We weren't raised as bad people. But you're doing it for your job. And second of all, I would have gladly made space for you. But courtesy, it's my fridge. You didn't talk to me about it. The fridge is now not working. Apparently, she took my eggs out. My eggs rotted on the counter. Had she spoken to me like a human, that wouldn't have happened. So I said, it's the way you're talking to me. I said I would have made space for you. I would have gladly made space for you. But that's my fridge. You should have asked me or told me something because the fridge is off now and you're going ham. It's the way you're talking to me. She said, I don't care. It turned into this big, we almost fist fought. It was almost a fist fight. I don't hit first. Any fight she and I have ever been in, she's hit me first. The other person in my close circle too that's related to me, the same relation, same thing. This was the first time in a long time where I wanted to clock her in her face. It was the boldness. She said, did you pay for it? Did you pay for it? I said, it doesn't matter if I paid for it. They gave it to me, so it's my property. I cleaned it. My stuff is in there. You pushed all my stuff to the side. I would have gladly made space for you, but decent. This is not your fridge. She's just being bold-faced about it. And I don't care. You didn't pay for it. Well, pay for it next time. Pay for it. I'm like, what? This is how biased these fucking people are, you know. Disgusting, because I know they saw that whole thing, the traipsing around in fucking green. They're disgusting to me. Anyway, so nonetheless, so after the conversation with her, I was about to hit her and I realized I felt myself getting mad and I don't typically hit first. So I had to go in the room and calm down and cool down. Right? So I left the situation alone and we eventually were able to get the fridge fixed. So I noticed I come back now. I realized like a day later that my eggs were left out on the counter. It was like 2 days later when I noticed. So the eggs were no longer good. So she actually did move some of my stuff out the fridge. She took my eggs and threw it on the counter. The eggs sat there and rottened. And she acted disgusting and horrible with me about it. I couldn't believe it. It's even to the point where recently now my mom was having the older person in my close circle was having a conversation with me about the eggs. And she said, it wasn't me. So-and-so said she realized she took your eggs out. She was going to apologize to you. I'm like, really? But yet the traipsing around in green have green hanging off the fucking bodies. Not everyone, though. It's not everyone, but it's, again, the biased, subjective ones that have the issue with me. It don't matter who it is, you know. Anybody I have an issue with, if there's some sort of color coordination, you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to be putting on the body. It don't matter what the interaction was. I don't have to have been wrong. They have a problem with me. So anyways, so that's basically what I've been dealing with. So now all of a sudden they're wearing green and pushing the narrative of envy. Despite everything I told you just happened. And they sat there in the ass and watched everything that happened. They're pushing green and they're wearing green now. It's just insanity to me. It's so crazy to me. So anyways, now what this video is actually about, because I did want to vent about the green thing. That's what led to me talking about the green thing, is I wanted to talk about this interaction that happened in the gym, my new gym, the last time I went, which was on Friday. And it has something to do with green. And so that was what led to me venting about this, because I wouldn't even go talk about it. I'm so used to the unfair, biased, dumb, stupid, subjective shit with whatever. I was not going to make it because I know they saw what happened and I know they know what took place. I wasn't even going to make a video about it, But it's only because now I'm about to talk about or document what happened in my new gym. And green did come into play. That's the only reason why I ended up venting about the whole thing. Because I'm just like, it's just insanity what I've been dealing with, y'all. It's just crazy. Anyway, so in my new gym, I hadn't really dealt with much gang stalking. I dealt with a little bit of gang stalking. It wasn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be. Especially since it's such a diverse crowd. Like, I could already tell already when I stepped into that gym a couple months ago when I went there to get creatine. I looked at some of the owners and the people running the gym, and I was even looking at some of the members coming in and out. And I could just tell, like, it was more, first of all, it's a bigger crowd because it's not just like a one facility type thing. It's like several, it is one facility, but you have different facets to the facility. They have a rehabilitation center, they have a pool, they have a this or that, right? They have several things connected to that gym. It's not like my old gym where it was just like a basic gym. You just have the gym. You have different components to this new gym here. And then it's a diverse crowd, and I could tell. I still went there and signed up, knowing it was a diverse crowd. My only fear is not me having an issue with anyone. My only fear was retribution. Like, I didn't know what kind of treatment, similar to when I went to the first gym. My only fear was I don't know what I'm going to receive. I'm targeted and a lot of people have a problem with me. But I remembered going in there and getting the creatine. And despite the guy being white, he was pretty nice to me. So I was like, I think I can do this. Like, I think it might be okay. I was like, let me just make this jump and make this leap into a new gym now, because it's to the point where the gym was closed and I wasn't able to access the gym. I'm like, no, I want a 24-hour gym at this point. So I went there and I actually signed up, and it wasn't bad. I was very awkward and shaky when I was signing up. I was dealing with someone of a different race, the race I offended. It was very awkward. But I got through the whole interaction. She's a people person. She was very nice to me. There was a little bit of sensitization in the conversation, nothing much. It was not bad at all. Signed up, I went there the first day, it wasn't bad. They had this older guy in there, I could tell he's a gang stalker, but he's really nice. He just had a few, gave me a few tips about one of the machines I was using. Okay, cool. I went the second time, it wasn't too bad. Went the third time, it seemed like a little bit more gang stalking. And I think that's due to things that are happening outside of the gym. I noticed this is what happens. Like, whatever's happening in the targeting outside is going to kind of manifest in your workspace, your gym space, wherever personal places you go to. The situation is still ongoing from the old gym. It hasn't stopped yet. They're still pushing stuff and they're still holding on to the situation. So I noticed, not Friday, not the last time I went, the time before that, I noticed I went in there, and I went in at a time that was a little bit earlier than what I had been going, and it was a little bit more packed. They had some gang stalking activity. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't too bad. There was some gang stalking activity. For instance, there's this guy. I know he's a honeypot. I don't know what they're doing. What they're trying to do with him, right? This buff Rasta dude. I already recognized his face, and I was correct. I came on Facebook and I was able to find him. I went in there. I was using a couple machines. This was on the Wednesday, last Wednesday, and I went to use an ab machine. And as I was about to use it, he walked up and he said, "Hey, you know what you're doing?" I said, "Yep." And he said, "Okay." And he walked by. I said, "Thank you." He said, "No problem." I recognized his face immediately because before I even came to this new gym, I saw him floating around in my recommended friends on Facebook. And apparently he's a twin. That's why the account stood out to me. Like I told you, I'd be noticing these recommended, right? These pages floating in the recommended. So I remembered seeing that he was a twin, and they, had recently been pushing this twin thing at someone in my close circle and I. So that's kind of why it stood out to me, because I'm sensitized to the word twin now. So I remember I was just scrolling through my Facebook, and then I saw the recommended friends category, and I saw his account, and it was like a picture of him and this next dude, obviously his brother, that looks just like him, and it said twin something. So I remembered clicking on the account and seeing these two like super buff dudes, and the account had like 300,000 followers or something like that. So I was just like, okay, this must be one of these fitness accounts that they're recommending to me, because I do follow a lot of fitness accounts. I wasn't even thinking, okay, this was somebody that might have visited my profile or something like that, because I'm like, nah, this looks like a fitness influencer or something like that. He has 300,000 followers. I'm like, no way. I'm like, this person don't even look like they're on Synchro right now. This is what I was thinking in my head. Then I go to the gym on Wednesday, and this was before I got into the new gym, by the way. I had seen this account floating in my recommended friends. So now I get it. I'm in the new gym. Like I said, I went a couple times. I never saw that dude. Get into the gym last Wednesday, He walks by and asks me if I'm okay if I need to use if I need help with the machine. He don't know I recognize his face. I did. So anyway, I know he's a gang stalker. It's obvious. He looks like a honeypot. I know that's what they're using him for. So anyway, now Friday I went to the gym. He wasn't unpleasant to me, but like I said, I could tell he's a honeypot. And so he was in there last Wednesday. Then I went to do my tricep push downs, my rope push downs. Wednesdays are my short days in the gym, y'all. I don't do much. I do like 3 workouts. I'm doing my tricep rope push downs. I noticed they put this girl with this little short pants to sit on a machine right next to me. And then this other young female that was using the other cable machine behind me, she comes up to the side of me and she said, "Hey, I just want to tell you I really like your arms. Your arms are really cut." I said, "Hey, thank you." And while I'm answering her, there's this white guy standing in the corner, this older white guy with glasses on, and he had yellow shoes on. And he goes, and he does this loud, like, obnoxious cough. So I noticed it and I just pretended like I didn't notice it. So that was the most heinous gang stalking I had dealt with thus far, was last Wednesday. Because other time I've been in there has been gang stalking. They even had this older white guy sitting nearby on a machine one of the times I went, and he was literally sitting there the whole time while I was using the barbell in that area. And then when I was done with my workout and I was leaving the gym, he left with me. And then he held the door open for me. So he was a pleasant gang stalker. Anyway, nonetheless, a gang stalker, nonetheless, and it was making my brain tick. But I noticed this is what they're doing in this new gym. Like, specifically, they're putting white gang stalkers nearby in the vicinity to sit and stare in the phone. I'm noticing it. I'm very observant of my surroundings. I've been dealing with this for a long time. But still, it wasn't as bad as what was happening in the old gym. Then last Friday happened. And last Friday, again, it's still, I wouldn't say was as bad as what was happening in the old gym. It's just like it's carrying over to my new gym, though. And I knew this was going to happen. I said it. Before I got in there, I said, I know whatever gym I go to, I'm going to deal with gang stalking. Because this is a small community. And I already realized all these dudes know each other at these different gyms. So I knew it was going to follow me over. But I still feel like it wouldn't be as bad because it's not the direct people that it started with and the dude that it started with, where the offenses was made that they can't move on from or whatever it is, right? I knew it was going to follow me in some sort of way, some sort of capacity. I just didn't know. I don't know how bad it's going to get, and I pray it doesn't get any worse. It's not to the point where my workout has been interfered with. That did kind of happen on Friday, though. This is what I want to talk about, right? So anyway, so that's what happened on the Wednesday. That was the gang stalking I dealt with on the Wednesday, last Wednesday. The buff roster dude that I kind of recognized, he walked by, I knew he was a honeypot. The 2 young females, right? The one with the short pants that sat near me, and then the one that complimented my arms. And then the older white guy that was standing in the corner with the yellow shoes on. And when she spoke to me and I answered her, he went and did this big, loud, obnoxious cough. And then he just kept standing there kind of like, wobbling back and forth. I could tell he was staring on the phone, ready to do gang stalking stuff. Like, he seemed upset. It wasn't like some of the other ones I've dealt with. He seemed agitated and ready to do stuff. So I've dealt with different, like I said, energies in the targeting. It just depends. Anyway, other than that, though, it wasn't too bad. I got the workout done, I left. It wasn't a problem. Now Friday happens, last Friday. I'm working out. I noticed several gang stalkers in there. First of all, they had this girl, she was acting thirsty as hell in this tight bodysuit. She's following me around the gym. I'm noticing her. I'm not looking at her. I'm very good at doing that. I'm seeing everything that's going on. I won't even look at you. You would swear I didn't even know you were there. She followed me around the gym. I'm noticing her, right? I'm ignoring the hell out of her. I'm doing my workout. Then they had this white guy come on the machine right next to me when I was doing my hack squats. My brain started taking that and really bad. But nothing offensive popped in, thank God. But anyway, so he was a gang stalker. I could tell he was a gang stalker too. Also, the honeypot dude, the same buff roster, it's like they're trying to use him as a honeypot now. I was in the gym at a whole different time on Wednesday to when I went on Friday. They still had him there. And this time they had him at the machine they knew I was going to go on first, the cable kick machine. And he was standing there, like, kind of like pacing back and forth. So I remember rolling my eyes because I knew it was the same stupid, thirsty bullshit that they were trying to do. I dealt with it enough in the old gym. So I remember just rolling my eyes when I saw him. That was the only reaction I had. Other than that, you would never know that I knew gang stalking was taking place. I know they saw me roll my eyes when I first got in that gym. So anyway, I just continued to do my workouts and stuff. Things weren't being impeded. So I didn't have an issue with it. It was more so the only impeding was that first machine. And there was another cable machine, but I wasn't about to go and use it next to him. I know he's a gang stalker. I didn't feel like them trying to set up some stupidness there. I don't want to deal with that. I just want to work out and leave. Anyway, I don't have a problem with the dude, whatever. You know, you were recruited. This is what they do. He seemed pleasant enough. His personality didn't seem terrible, right? It's not like some of the other dudes they've thrown on me that have been real nasty, right? So that wasn't the case with him, but still, you're a gang stalker. And I don't want to deal with that. So anyways, so now I get over to, let me hurry up too, y'all. It's almost time for me to get off. Let me hurry up and wrap things up. Because that's what this video really was about, was my interaction in the gym, in my gym, my new gym on Friday. And then I ended up talking about the green thing and all the other crazy gaslighting stuff I'm dealing with. So anyways, so I went over to do my last workout, which was deadlifts, right? And I'm setting up the barbell to do it. And I noticed from my peripheral that there's this white guy in all white. He's wearing all white. And he has this green hat on his head. Remember, I told you they've been using green on me now, right? This green hat on his head. Obvious gang stalker. I mean, obviously he's a gang stalker. I can't believe, what you thought I didn't know he was a gang stalker? You thought I was getting turned on at the fact that he helped me with my barbell? I knew he was a gang stalker. So anyway, he was standing over in the corner there with a barbell himself. He had a 45-pound barbell, and he was kind of doing some sort of like little thing over there with it. It was just gang stalking. So I just continued to set my stuff up and pretend like I didn't see him. My brain was ticking. And the reason it was ticking was because I knew he was a gang stalker. But I just pretended like I didn't see him. And then he came over and started being friendly and making conversation with me and asking me if I needed help. And so he started helping me put the plates on. And I was just being pleasant back to him, polite. I knew it was gang stalking. But I figured they were doing the stupid thing they used to do in the old gym when they were like having like a bipolar moment where they were being more constructive rather than destructive. Those moments where they would act like they're helping me, like some of the guys that they would use as gang stalkers, they would have them helping me set my machine up or take my plates down as some sort of way of showing me how to be amicable in the gym, which is gaslighting anyway. I come from good breeding. I know how to have manners. I know how to share, etc. I haven't had that issue in the new gym. I've been very polite. But they used to do gang stalk and stuff in the old gym. I've talked about it already. Like purposely blocking the mirror, coming directly in front of me while I'm on the Smith machine. There's this big, huge mirror. You could go anywhere in it and do the dumbbell workout you're doing. You know, purposely standing directly in my line of vision where I'm on the Smith machine, and you know I'm using it to see myself squatting because I have poor squat form. I've talked about it in these videos before. It was a gaslighting gang stalking tactic they used to do. And then I get upset about it and they'll make it like I'm this Karen, this pompous Karen that thinks she owns the gym. Like it used to be gaslighting, stuff like that. So anyway, then they would do this thing where sometimes if they were in a better mood and they were being constructive rather than destructive, they would act like they're helping me with the plates and stuff. I guess as a way to show me how to be amicable in the gym, even though I don't need that lesson. Nonetheless, I used to like those type of days in the gym when they were doing that type of tactic. So I figured that's what was going on with this guy because he was white. They're pushing the white thing. I know I did share offensive stuff in my car in Florida. He's wearing the big green hat, obviously a gang stalker. So I figured it was another moment like that where they wanted me to be amicable with him. And so I acted how I would have genuinely acted with him had he not been a gang stalker and he were helping me. Just lighthearted conversation. I didn't start batting my eyes at him. I didn't start flipping my hair. I didn't go in the mirror and start fixing my face. I continued to move how I was moving. I was just polite with him. That was it. We had polite, surface level, amicable conversation. And he helped me load up some of the plates. So then when it came to doing my second set now, the same thing happened again where he helped me load up the plates. And actually I was so bastard about the interaction, even though I was acting amicable and I actually wasn't acting too nervous. Not as nervous as I was acting when I signed up for the gym and I was having the interaction with one of the owners. I think she's one of the owners or the workers. I don't really know. That interaction with her was very nerve-wracking. With this guy, I was a little bit more relaxed at this point, and I was able to kind of more so have conversation with him. Just like I said, surface level stuff. You know, he said, "Dang, you're strong as hell." I said, "Thank you." I said, "I've been working out for a while." And so he said, "Man, this is a workout in and of itself." He's talking about loading the plate up, loading the plates on the bar. I said, "It is." I said, "It is. It's very exhausting." You know, just regular convo that I would have had with him anyways had he not been a gang stalker. So anyway, I was so bastardy though. I didn't even realize the man had loaded the plates wrong. He put, my last deadlift or my PR, right, is 6 reps at 315 pounds. So I'm supposed to put 3 plates on both sides. The way it worked out was he ended up putting 4 plates on the left side And then I had 2 plates on the right side. And so when I was deadlifting, I was like, damn, it feels horrible today. You know, like I just figured I was tired or something. I was getting it off the ground, but I was real wobbly. I was like, damn, my balance is off today. I didn't even realize that because of my basittiness, I had him load an extra plate on the wrong side. So it did interfere with my workout to a certain degree, but I didn't have an issue with it initially. It wasn't until I realized it was malicious gangstalking where I was just like really irritated about the thing. Because when I started now unloading the plates and stuff, I went over and I noticed there was a drink left over in the area where I needed to put my plates. So I looked at it and I did get a little bit awkward, and I know they all saw the moment. So then it kind of staggered me, but then I just continued to put my plates up, and I noticed the guy got his drink and he disappeared, right? So I finished putting my stuff up, and when I noticed that he had put more plates on the left side than the right side, I was like, oh, I said, damn. I said, that's why it felt like that. I said, that's my fault, man. I said, I should have told him to put it on this side. I was so bassety with the interaction. So then as I'm leaving, there's an older white guy coming up the stairs. He's taking a guzzle from his drink. And then I'm noticing ref campaign as I'm walking to my car. I'm like, really? They were trying to use that guy as a thirsty gang stalker? Like, they're going to make it to the point where I'm going to be a bitch to everyone. Because this is the same thing they did with this female at my job. I talked about this already. This nerdy, meek-looking older female. I would have never guessed she was a honeypot. So I was having a amicable conversation with her, just being human, not trying to be a bitch. And talked about it in the last video, y'all. Listen to the last video to hear what happened with that situation. But I'm like, oh my God, it's like they feel like just because I'm making conversation with somebody, I'm being thirsty? Or do they feel like because somebody's nice to me, I'm so desperate and lonely in the targeting because they've isolated me so freaking bad that I'll take anything that talks to me and gives me conversation? I think that's what they think is going on. I think they feel like they've isolated me successfully so good that anything that seems like it's giving me attention, I'm going to jump at it. It's ridiculous. First of all, he didn't even look like a honeypot. I didn't even have my guards up with him. I figured he was gang stalking. Yes, I saw the big green hat on his head. I thought what they were using him for, like I said, was as this kind of way to teach me how to be amicable, especially with someone of a different race, even though I don't need that lesson. But that's what I thought that was. I didn't know they were using the man as a thirsty type thing. Who I thought they were using in that way was the big buff Rasta dude. That's why I rolled my eyes when I saw him when I first got into the gym. I had no clue. I had my guards down. I'm like, they're going to make it to the point where I really start acting like a bitch with anybody that tries to talk to me. And then they're going to gaslight me about that too and use that to perpetuate the narrative of me being the big bad monster. It's just ridiculous. So then I'm leaving also to one of the guys that works in the gym was loading the fridge with drinks when I was leaving. And then came up the stairs this older white guy that was drinking the drink. And I'm getting to my car, they're revving back. I'm like, huh, they were using him in that way? I was like, I'm not even looking at that man like that. He didn't even look like the honeypot type. It's not like he looked like the Italian dude, where it's like classic honeypot type look. I didn't even think, I was like, there's no way they're using this man like that. I was not even thinking in that way until I saw the drink left over at the thing, That is not how I thought they were using him. I know they were using him as a gang stalker. I did not think that was the way they were using that man. I'm like, oh my God, these people are going to make it to the point where anybody that tries to talk to me, I'm either going to be a bitch and ignore them or snap their head off with what they're doing now. And then they're going to gaslight me about that. Anyway, I just had to talk about it, y'all. I was just like, what the hell is going on? Like, slowly but surely, it's starting to trickle into the new gym. And I knew that was going to happen anyway. But I'm just hoping it doesn't get too bad. I really am, because I really like that gym. And I like the equipment. And it's not, like, I like how it's low-key and downstairs. And it's kind of like this dim kind of, I just feel more low-key even though the cameras are on me. Like, I hope it doesn't get so bad that it's like a replay of what happened in my old gym. At least, I guess I could say at least it's not the direct agitators of the situation. I guess I could say. But I'm like, when are they going to let this thing go? Anyways, y'all, this is what the video was really about. Me documenting what took place in the gym, And then I ended up talking about other stuff that's been taking place, like them wearing the green and all the other gaslighting things that's been happening. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all in the next one, man. Peace out. Let me see if they're going to delete this video too. Y'all, I just wanted to add a quick update to the last clip. So shortly after making that video, like a day or two after I went home. In fact, when did I make that video? I made that video Saturday night. I think it was Sunday that this happened. Today's Monday. Yeah, yesterday is when it happened. I I believe I have a prolapse, y'all. I believe I have, this is a TMI, but this is documentation, y'all. This is a targeted individual channel. I'm candid with y'all. It's like a life vlog. I'm telling y'all everything that's going on with me and documenting, right? And also trying to teach you tactics on how to deal with targeting. Just teaching you things I've been through and how I combat certain things. Anyway, so TMI, but I believe I have a vaginal prolapse, y'all. And I believe the start of it was the improper deadlifting. I think because remember I told y'all I was so distracted by the interaction with the gang stalker that the plates were not loaded correctly. I had him loaded improperly. And so I had an imbalanced deadlift at 315 pounds. That's very dangerous. As strong as I am, that's very dangerous. So I believe a strain was created in my uterus or in that lower area by my pelvic floor. And then the next day of all weeks for me to do this, I tried a new ab workout. And I tried to work out at home instead of in the gym. And I did ab crunches to failure, which put a tremendous amount of strain on what I believe was already an injured area from the improper deadlifting. And then the next day I did intense sprinting. So I think those 3 days of intense activity in the improper deadlift form led to what's going on with me right now, y'all. I went in the bathroom yesterday morning to bathe, and I noticed like this poofiness. This is, again, y'all, warning, graphic, a TMI, but this poofiness by my private part area. And I was immediately freaked out, you know, and I remembered running into a family member's room and showing her what was going on, and she was telling me it's likely a hernia. And you know, that's like a power lifter's worst fare, is getting either a hernia or a prolapse. That's a power lifter's worst fare. And it's something that can happen if you have improper form, because power lifters lift heavy. I'm not a power lifter per se. I'm a bodybuilder, an amateur bodybuilder at that. But I was lifting some heavy stuff, similar to what you see powerlifting females do. So it's like a hybrid. I was like an amateur bodybuilder slash power lifter. I'm saying was because now I have to take a break and lift lighter. I'm still working out. I went to the gym today, y'all. I just have to be safe about what I'm doing until I get the situation dealt with. But that's what it led to. Like, this is what I'd be talking about with the gang stalking, even with the car accidents I got in. Remember prior to 2020 when the gang stalking or the targeting started, I had been driving since age 15. So for over a decade, I had been driving and hadn't even gotten a speeding ticket. And then in the first 2 years of my targeting, 3 back-to-back car accidents. So the distraction and the gang stalking and stuff actually leads to dangerous situations for targets. I'm telling you. And it wouldn't have been so bad. I wouldn't have been so, I want to say, bitter about it had it been the kind of gang stalking I thought it was. But the fact that it was kind of malicious and them pushing this same annoying, thirsty thing from my old gym that they're still holding on to, like, this is where the bitterness is starting to creep in now. Because I have a very serious situation on my hands now that I have to deal with. I don't have insurance. I have to figure out how to get insurance. I'm working a security guard job. And my private parts is hanging out. As vulgar as that sounds, I want you to understand what I'm dealing with. So anyways, it's just stressful. And it also interferes with now my routine, because this is like the main thing that I do is working out. It's how I combat mental health issues due to what's going on. It's how I keep myself healthy. Now I have to work out and in this kind of way where it's like I have to be super careful. I can't lift too heavy. Like, I'm so upset. I was really crying my eyes out yesterday. This is the first time out of every horrible thing that they've done to me. This was the first time the first thing that actually really made me cry. Nothing else. Anyway, y'all, I just wanted to document and let y'all know what's going on. So obviously I'll keep y'all updated. I haven't been to the doctor yet. I'm working on getting Medicaid. So I have to go to the doctor and get an ultrasound and really figure out what's going on, because I'm not really too certain. And from what I saw with the prolapse, typically, I don't want to, TMI y'all, right? But typically it's coming out through your private area, right? Like your insides is coming out. Like that's what it is. It falls down and it's coming out through TMI, your birthing canal. Thank God that's not happening to me. It's not that bad where it's coming out like that, but I am dealing with some sort of like bulge at the top of my private part, and I'm feeling pressure and I have to push it back up. And so I believe it's a prolapse. I'm not really sure, and I have to go get it checked out and see what's going on. But it's horrible, man. It's like it's a nightmare being targeted, and it's just years and years of torture and unfair treatment. But I had to document this too. I wanted to add this in because this is something correlated with the last clip, directly correlated, like cause and effect almost. Anyway, so I'll talk to y'all in the next one, and I will keep you updated if God spares my life on the situation. My birthday gift, because I'm making 34, December 22nd, I'm still targeted. My birthday gift was a vaginal prolapse. So I'll talk to y'all in the next one. Peace out.